the hardback and did read it. It's excellent. Armed Madhouse. He also is a best-selling author of The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, and he is Greg Palate, but it's available everywhere, store shelves nationwide, and, of course, at Amazon.com. Not available at Infowars.com yet, but it will soon. I'm going to do that. For some reason, I've never got it done and carry Greg's stuff, but we are because it's so good. Armed Madhouse, that's the short title. It's kind of like Dr. Strangelove. That's the short title. It's got a long title. But Greg Palate joins us. Greg, I didn't ask you during the break. Are you in the United States or are you in England right now? Where are you?
I'm in the U.S., about to skedaddle back to BBC London in a week or so after I do some filming under the skirts of the Washingtonians next week. So I'll be in Washington filming, then back to London for BBC television.
Greg, they say everything's accelerating from technology development just to our daily lives. It's just exponential, and it looks like we're starting to really see the decline of Rome here. And I'm scared we all may be squashed as it falls. Open discussions now of super inflation, super recession, or maybe even depression. Open borders, NAFTA and GATT, roosters coming home to roost. Oil price. I mean, just shotgunning. Tell us what's going on.
Okay, well, I think I'm actually in a good mood because I think that the pus is finally breaking through the skin. Frankly, the media can't keep the blackout going forever.
No, I agree. We're starting to lance the wound.
That's right. I mean, in fact, I can't make this up, by the way, Alex. Karl Rove wrote a review of Armed Madhouse, and that review, I can't make it up, was subpoenaed by the House Judiciary Committee because it was evidence in the prosecutor gate firings. What he was saying is, thank God, and the Rove bots are saying, thank God, the U.S. media no U.S. national media has picked up the investigations of that British reporter, Greg Palate, in Armed Madhouse. They even include a little excerpt PDF.
Is he that arrogant to put that out, or how did you?
Well, they subpoenaed it, and now why was it part of the prosecutor subpoena? Was because one of the things that they didn't want you to see was that, Karl Rove says that there's 500 emails that they can't find because he used the Republican Party computers, and golly gee, the computers were maintained and cleaned. Well, guess what, Karl? He knows that I've got 500 of them, and they are enough to send Karl and the gang up the river from here to Kingdom Come.
So they're looking for the emails. Greg Palate has got them.
Yeah, of course. That's what I do. I do investigative reporting. But as you know, that's why I do it from England, because here it's against Patriot Act 3. So what's happened is... Oh,
by the way, I want to stop you. They actually issued an order to arrest you under Homeland Security for showing a FEMA camp down on the Gulf Coast. That was actually in mainstream news, folks, and only when you were doing work for ABC did their intervention keep you from being arrested. That's how close we are, folks. When they get up on Fox News and call for my arrest and everybody else's arrest, they're not playing games.
Yeah, I was charged under the Patriot Act. I was joking before about investigative reporting being illegal. I thought it was a joke until I was charged by the Department of Homeland Security. And, this was not about national security. This was about political image security. I was filming. We still have 89,000 people living in tin cans, in the tin can Guantanamo there, in the swamplands. 89,000 families, right? They say we can't find unskilled workers or workers to do jobs. How about issuing visas to people in the Katrina camp? 89,000 people. Maybe they can be given work permits. What do you think, Alex? And
no, Halliburton, now that's moved to Dubai, literally brought in 300,000 illegal aliens to do it.
Well, so what's happened is that now I was filming there, and I was showing that we were sticking people in a place called Cancer Alley right under the Exxon smokestacks. I filmed it. They brought criminal charges against me, and what happened is, by the way, they didn't arrest me, as Washington Journal reported, because they couldn't find me. Okay, Alex, these are the guys looking for Osama bin Laden. I'm on television, right? And then right. And by the way, I have this. That's why I expanded Armed Madhouse with 3 new chapters, including one busted about this bust and what they didn't want you to see and know about. Okay, so you got. And by the way, I asked them. I said, what is the charge? I finally called them because I was.
You violated infrastructure protection. They say you can't release anything on a toxic spill. You can't show any highways or factories.
So what happened was they said I was filming critical infrastructure. I said, how do you know it was critical infrastructure, the Exxon plant and the FEMA camps, which are part of Homeland Security? They said, well, any major polluting facility owned by a Bush donor No, that one I made up. But it's like this is what they don't want you film. Look, Osama stopped looking at my films to target things. He uses Google Map. Come on, guys. This is all again not about protecting us, but about.
By the way, this is a gigantic, one of the biggest refinery complexes in North America.
It is.
It's not like you don't know where the refineries are.
Yeah, and so what's happening?
Drive to the Gulf of Mexico.
But they don't want you showing that they put the trailers right there in the toxic plume. It is ugly. And then on top of it, right? So we got that story is coming out no matter what. I've got Monica Goodling testifying yesterday about what Rove is gloating that the armed madhouse won't expose because in one of the
I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go into that because usually I call you to come on. I was wondering why is Greg calling me? I should have got you on.
Yeah.
I mean, this is huge. No wonder. Oh, so you want this this is being blacked out. You have 500? Do you have the emails?
Right, and just at the top of the BBC Nightly News, we have the emails. We showed them, and the reason that they said they're gone is that, in fact, the one I have reproduced in our madhouse is basically involves something called caging lists. And Monica Goodling opened up her testimony yesterday and said, look, they lied. They perjured themselves saying they knew nothing about the caging list. And there wasn't one congressman who said, what the heck are caging lists? Why are you saying this? Why are they perjuring themselves about it? The answer is caging lists are lists of voters that they illegally challenged on their right to vote. And you know what the number one group of voters was that they challenged, Alex?
Let me guess, blacks.
Well, not just any blacks, soldiers. Soldiers sent overseas. I've got their addresses, like this naval airman Randy Prousa. He sent overseas. What they did was they sent letters to the soldiers' homes where they're registered to vote. The letters come back. That's called caged. When the caged letters, they piled them up, 70,000 in Florida alone. When the soldiers' vote came back from overseas, they would say those voters voted from a suspect address, like Baghdad, right? Because they're not voting from. We have a letter showing that they don't live at home. Well, of course they don't. The president sent them overseas. And so.
And they know that over 70% of the troops in Gallup polls are against the war, so they just black out all of the black military.
All the military, because what's happening is that the anger there. So the
military shouldn't be. They may be with Al Qaeda.
And you know what? Here's the thing: they don't want those guys to vote at all, and so they were secretly challenging their votes. No one imagine challenging the votes of active duty soldiers overseas.
Because they may be with Al Qaeda.
Okay, if this keeps up, they may be. And so what's happened is that they, no one asked about this. And by the way, I had a voting rights attorney, Bobby Kennedy Jr., went through the BBC evidence and the emails. He said, my God, these people shouldn't be in office. They should all be in prison, all the way up and down the line.
Bush isn't bad.
And he said, this is a felony. This isn't just some creepy, horrible thing. It's not just creepy to tax soldiers. It's against the law. You can't do this. It's a felony crime. And what Goodling was saying was...
But wait a minute. They love the soldiers. Fox News told me.
Oh, yeah, I know. They love the soldiers. They want to send them chocolates. How about sending them home? Some of those guys are trying to sneak in those chocolate boxes. Come home. They love them so much that they want to send more of them, right? That's the one way to express your love is to stick someone in under a tank under Humvee in Fallujah. I mean, I just talked to a friend of mine who's going over. This is like no joke stuff, man. He's been assigned to be the guy in a squad that follows up after an IED attack, and you know they always attack the second squad. I mean, he just had a new baby. This is really no joke as we head to Memorial Day, and they're taking away his vote. Okay, these guys, and what happened was Goodling was saying they committed perjury. She named Tim Griffin, she named Kyle Sampson, she named Karl Rove, and no one had a word to say. And so the rest of the world is saying, doesn't this bother you? It's on the top of the BBC Nightly News. It's not like we're some pirate radio station here. We are putting this stuff out, but we can't get it out here. And like you say, look, the evil is kind of spreading, but the information is now leaking, and that's important. It's coming out, by the way. You are the crack in the electronic Berlin Wall. I'm always thrilled to have you on because, by the way, just so you know, ABC News turned down the reports from us on the criminality.
Well, thank you for coming on, Greg, and sharing this with us. We've got to get a little report out.
Yeah, well, what happens is that, just so you know, ABC has the right to run all my BBC television reports for free. We have a film trading agreement. And they said, forget it, no way. The head of ABC News personally vetoed it. There is no way that they're going to run these reports. And so I said, I got to call Alex. He'll allow me to lob the stuff across the water. And the other thing is, you got to look at the whole panoply. They're going to lie to you about the votes because they lied to you. And by the way, it's not one party. I see my good buddy Al Gore just came out with a new book this week, The Assault on Reason. Hey, Al, we're talking about we're now talking about an immigration bill because there are 12 million undocumented workers here in the United States. Excuse me, in 1993, he got up on national television and said that we will now reduce the number of illegal workers in the United States from 2 million from Mexico, right? Because of NAFTA. It's going to end the brown tide, right? That was his big claim, that NAFTA would create massive prosperity in Mexico. They would never, and therefore they have no reason to leave. Well, the minimum wage in Mexico is now 1/4 of what it was before NAFTA.
Oh, I mean, every solution they've got is always actually an accelerant, and then they'll have another solution that accelerates the merger.
And the only way that I see them stopping people crawling across the border to survive is that they're going to make it so grim on this side that we'll want to be escaping over the wall the other way. And that's what I'm very concerned about. But I do think that the information is getting out. You're getting it out because, look, they can only control, the New York Pravda Times and the Washington Izvestia Post there. But, you're getting it out through DVDs. You're getting it out through increasing radio presence, the Internet, and you have to understand, I'm about as mainstream as you can get in the rest of the world. BBC, very stiff upper lip, mainstream press everywhere. But I can't get this stuff in the U.S., and you're letting it in. I hope people understand how precious and important you and your work is.
Well, you're very kind. We're just doing our duty, but it is exciting to see this happening. The problem is now, we know that the big telecommunications companies spent over $150 million last year trying to regulate the end of net neutrality and to start trying to shut down internet radio. I mean, they see the threat, not just from me. We're just one little brigade in this alternative media army. Where do you see that going, Greg?
Well, I see that you're not going to be a little brigade. Otherwise, they wouldn't care. Otherwise, they wouldn't spend $100 million trying to beat you into the ground. They don't see this as minor stuff because you know what's happening? People are going to say, well, if I want to hear really serious investigative reporting, I can't turn on ABC with some fake hairdos and bleached teeth. I have to go to Alex Jones. And people are wising up. They're learning that it's not scary out there in the Internet. That's where they're going to get the international news. That's where they're going to get the hard stuff. One of the things I put in our madhouse that I put on the British TV, that before Katrina, they had the Bushies had let out a contract for the emergency evacuation of New Orleans. Never been done, never been privatized. Okay, and they said, well, they're going to have this expert James Lee Witt on their contract. Witt says he's never heard of these guys. Innovative emergency management. You know what I asked them, have you ever done emergency planning ever anywhere before you got the New Orleans contract, the most vulnerable city in America? And they couldn't name a single place where they'd done any work. And then I pull out 3 pages of donations to the politicians. And by the way...
Well, let me ask you this question before we go to break and then come back and talk about oil prices in Venezuela and everything that's happening with the war and what you see happening. And Greg Palate, BBC reporter, also a reporter for the London Guardian. Well, when we get back, the first question is, how far is this going to go? Because, and what is the mindset in the White House? Because they think they're invincible, and they've just gone even further than I thought they could, and it just seems like they want to get caught. And then where do you see this going with the elections, Ron Paul, or are we just going to end up with Hillary Clinton and then it won't matter? They'll just pass the baton. Greg Palate is our guest. We have a link to his website up on Infowars.com right now.
Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Bush is rattling sabers again to attack Iran. Got a ton of police state news, election news. It's all coming up in the next hour. We'll also have open phones for those that are still holding. Here's the toll-free number if you'd like to join us, 1-800-259-9231. Greg, in the 4 or 5 minutes we've got left here, Greg Palate, BBC, London Guardian. Can you get into air? Can you get into it on air how you got the White House emails, or do you want to not tell people about that?
No, that's fine. I even put it in our Madhouse because it's almost a bad joke. People think that Karl Rove is an evil genius, but in fact, that's
so this is in the new
right.
edition. This is in the new edition.
Yeah, in the new edition of our Madhouse.
Okay.
And from Baghdad to New Orleans, and what he did was he and the Rove bots. They're not the sharpest knives in the drawers, and they misaddress their emails. And what we do is, while they have a domain name, several, like GeorgeWBush.com, we set up similar names, like GeorgeWBush.org. If they not thinking, type in ORG instead of COM, boom, it goes right into our domains of friends who control this stuff. It goes right back to us at BBC. Now, if it were love letters or campaign strategy or something, we would, I'm not going to open it up. I'm not going to go through it, or I'm going to delete it. But if we find evidence of criminality, my network says you put it on the air, and what we found was enough to put these guys away. And Goodling was trying to explain that to the committee yesterday, and they were ignoring her. And that's why she wanted immunity, because she thought, man, I'm involved in this. I'm going to go up the river too. Because people are saying, why did she ask for immunity?
What type of things are in the emails?
Okay, the main thing is the schemes to steal the election. Things like knocking off black voters, caging lists. We had 50 on the caging list. That's what the main thing that they were doing, and it goes back to the U.S. prosecutors. Just so you know, I just have had several conversations with David Iglesias, the fired prosecutor. He confirmed, and I have some of this in our Madhouse, speaking to his committee, to his office, they want him to bring false prosecutions against so-called fraudulent voters while they were in the process of actually illegally manipulating the election themselves. Now, the guy is a very conservative Republican, an Ashcroft protege, but it was basically the line in the sand that he wasn't going to cross. He just couldn't do that. And
that's going to be their problem, is that as government gets more and more corrupt, they're trying to recruit criminals, but there's too many good people.
Well, here's the thing. That's exactly what Monica was trying to get across yesterday, and what I reported, put in our Madhouse, put on top of the BBC. If you go to the caging letters, to the emails, one of which is in the book, it actually says that the caging list operation was headed under Rove's direction, but headed by a guy named Tim Griffin. What is Tim Griffin's job today? He is U.S. Attorney for Arkansas. See, when they fired the honest attorneys, they put in this guy who was committing the vote theft, directing it. In other words, the perpetrators become the prosecutors. They're looking at the guys who were fired, and they say, was there politics in their removal? That ain't nothing. Look at their replacements. These replacements are Rove bots. They are basically a sleeper cell of anti-constitutional terrorists that are going to explode on us in November 2008.
Well, look at Alberto Gonzalez, the Enron lawyer. Look at John Yoo saying they can torture children. I mean, they're putting their people in every position of power.
And I got to tell you something. So Bobby Kennedy, and I'm going to tell maybe
we're out of time. I got to ask you this: what about the martial law? Bush now declaring himself emperor.
Well, you know what? If he's going to do it whether he declares it or not, what doesn't he get away with?
Do you think he may try to stay in office?
No, they're going to put in a new glove puppet. It just won't be any better.
So they're just going to change horses and put a leftist in.
They're going to stamp on a new head on the robot. Yep.
You'll have to tell us on another interview, because you've got to go do another one about Bobby Kennedy. Listen, thank you for coming on with us. There goes Greg Palate from our Madhouse. Third hour straight ahead. Copies of